huge, massive, enormous, humongous. One of my favorite video games of all time. Big. All these are synonyms for one word. Gigantic. A game that offered a thrilling hero shooter and MOBA experience, combining slick third-person shooter action with amazing cel-shaded graphics and elements and ideas pulled from a wide variety of games to create a truly unique experience that, although could be compared to others across genres, stood in a category of its own. And yet, despite the praises it has received from those who played it, the game was crippled before it could even walk, resulting in an untimely death in 2018. And for years, I have mourned its death. I have grieved. And when I thought I had moved on, news arrived. This shit was back, baby. A little story time for the crowd. My friends have heard this one before, but I'm not sure I've told this to my audience yet. But as a young loser, almost around a decade ago, I would scour the internet for new free-to-play games like a dwarf searching for gold. I was broke as shit, and also bored as shit, so I really didn't have much to play, resulting in me downloading hundreds of random games over the years. In my search to find some more cool games to play, I stumbled across a YouTube video from a smaller YouTube channel called Wistix, where he first brought to my attention a small game called Gigantic. Funny enough, this same video would get me interested in another work-in-progress game at the time, Fortnite, resulting in me applying on both of these games' retrospective websites to get access to their closed betas, and thankfully, I was able to get access to both, where I played a few levels of the early version of Fortnite before BR was even in discussion for the game at all, to kind of mixed impressions, but I was optimistic about the full release of the game. And then, I was able to get access to Gigantic's closed beta, where I became obsessed with telling anyone I could about this game. And now, 9 years later, I've come to pull the same shit. So what makes Gigantic good? Well, for one, the graphics. I mean, look at this shit. This game has a unique art style in the sense that, like Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, it really can't age. And not only does this, in my opinion, make it look, pleasant to look at, but the game, I think, could serve as honestly something that is almost timeless to play. Something that the game does well, and I think most people will care about more than the game looking, pretty or whatever, is that the game has insane amounts of variety. There are multiple maps, which, if you don't like a map, tough luck, but it adds some variety in the same sense that its contemporaries Overwatch and Paladins did. Different ability paths for each hero, a good amount of heroes as well, and then match variety is further varied from a new idea for the MOBA genre with the addition of different types of towers in the form of monsters with different abilities. Although there will likely be a specific meta for certain maps that emerges as the time goes on, I feel that it at least adds a bit of variety in the sense that certain team comps and maps will have certain summons that they can synergize with, which offers the unique aspects of having NPCs to be part of a multiplayer game's team in a way that I think is more engaging than the standard of minions or neutral enemy jungle monsters that are killed for buffs. Similar to Heroes of the Storm, a game that had some unique ideas but I think failed to execute them in a way that was particularly effective, Gigantic's heroes have skill trees for their abilities, which is a concept I think Blizzard got right in some aspects. Although a lot of these more hardcore competitive game players might disagree with this take, as shops seem to be a fairly sensible way to offer build variety, I feel it can quickly become a needlessly complex game of crunching numbers that eventually have a solved build or something close to it. With Gigantic's focus on instead having match progress focused on changing active abilities on your abilities, it feels like your character is actually growing over the course of a match instead of just getting better stats, which helps to keep complexity down to a minimum. This also allows for some cool build variety for each match, but like I've said before, a meta or best build will likely emerge, but in certain instances, it allows for some unique specs in order to counter or take advantage of certain layouts of a map or a team composition, as well as just having your own personal way of playing a hero. Speaking of abilities, in general, the character design in this game is insanely well done. Every character feels pretty unique from each other in the sense that they all have their own way to play the game, in a way that I think everyone will find a character that they really enjoy. Just to give some examples, Beckett has a floaty, movement-based shooter character playstyle. Taito is essentially the equivalent of playing a Dex bleed build from Dark Souls. Margrave is playing a heavy strength build in Dark Souls. Griselma is this old lady who plays as the engineer from TF2 if you were using the Wrangler. Oru is playing Neon White. Voden is essentially the game's version of Hanzo from Overwatch. There's a lot of comparisons that could be made across games, but I think they, again, all offer something unique for everyone to enjoy. Because of the third-person shooter aspect of gameplay, every character feels like they have actual different weapons as opposed to different attack animations with slightly different rates of fire that you commonly see with isometric or top-down MOBAs like League or Dota. If I were to best describe the combat, it's like Paladins or Overwatch, but cranked up to 11 in like a really good way. This is all helped by the movement and animations of Gigantic feeling extremely smooth, resulting in things feeling like a movement shooter in a sense, having fairly fast-paced gameplay that allows for flashy displays of skill. One thing that I think assists the overall speed the game promotes is that unlike a lot of other MOBAs, Gigantic doesn't have minions or creeps. It's very objective focused and puts a lot more emphasis on having battles with other players as well as frequent teamfights. This combined with the abilities mentioned earlier I think allows for a much easier skill floor and in my opinion more skill expression? I think that's how you would phrase it, but because of a lack of minions and creeps, there's a lot less worrying about last-hitting NPCs and understanding mechanics like wave pushing and other micromanaging or flowchart-like elements, which for my small, almost microscopic brain and penis was a major hurdle for enjoying these games at a high level. The game I think can be enjoyed at all skill levels, and I feel like newcomers have a better idea of how to improve at the game, as a good amount of transferable skills for more casual and more popular games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex, and CSGO can transfer to this game, and of course if you've ever had experience with Overwatch or Paladins, you'll more than likely know what you're doing. So why, if everything about this game is so good, did the game fail? Now I'm just going to give a brief overview. If you want more detail, Nerdslayer did a great video on the game. There's a lot of factors that went into why the game failed, but essentially it can be traced down to Motiga, the developer of Gigantic, partnering with Microsoft and Perfect World Entertainment. Early on, after its first ever reveal for Gigantic in 2015, Motiga would partner with Microsoft in order to hopefully sustain their costs of development. Unfortunately, as part of this deal, the game would launch exclusively on Xbox and the Windows 10 store, which meant that on PC, no one was really going to play or find this game naturally. Even before its launch, Gigantic had run out of money and had to delay the launch of the game to desperately try to get the game out in a more finished state. This delay in drawing of funds would cause massive layoffs, eventually leading to the remaining employees desperately partnering with Perfect World Entertainment, a notoriously horrible and controlling publisher, just so they could somehow launch the game. Eventually, due to a variety of issues the game still faced after launch, such as hackers, combat issues, lack of monetization, which is not something people usually complain about, but the game was honestly too fair in some aspects for its business model, as well as a barrier of entry to people with lower spec hardware combined with just general frame rate issues, resulted in the game shutting down as it really just wasn't making money. So, if that's the case, how did the game come back 6 years later? Well, late last year, the Gigantic community were receiving emails about a closed event for the game, marketed as a return to Gigantic, or more accurately, a test to gauge interest for the game. After the event concluded and some time had passed, it was announced that the game would be returning in full force, co-developed by Abstraction Games, who have famously worked on the Master Chief Collection as well as had a hand in many other successful games, with the game being published by Gearbox Publishing. From there, we would receive a closed beta in late February of this year, and somehow, we got here. There's not much specifics given about why the game was brought back, but I think like a lot of other people, Gearbox saw the potential in this game, which had unfortunately had its life cut too short. And I suppose that brings us now to the present, after the release of the game. I'll be honest, I recorded most of this before the release, so now that the game is actually released and I can speak on the present state of the game, how's it doing? Well, not so great. Well, at least it wasn't doing so great. For a game that really needed to succeed, unfortunately, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but the servers were pretty much not working, and the game was therefore almost unplayable, even bot matches. Because of this game's first release day being not really the greatest, I'm worried that a lot of people unfortunately have now gotten the wrong impression of this game. The game seems to be fixed now. I've been able to actually get in and play some games myself, and it is just as great as I remembered it. But these initial issues aside, I do think now that Gigantic is still the incredible game it was 6 years ago. I would highly recommend that anybody play it, but hopefully, for the future of the game, Abstraction takes some more steps to ensure its success. Whether this be in the form of making sure that every patch rolls out, hopefully without issue, or making sure that content updates are fairly frequent. I am just hoping that this game finally has a chance to walk on its own two legs. Hopefully going forward, some people who have bigger channels and audiences than I do might be able to cover this game. If anything shown in the video today piqued your interest, I highly encourage you to check out Gigantic. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. There was a moment where I was really worried that this video was just going to have to be scrapped because I didn't know if they were going to fix the issues of this game fast enough, but it seems like they did. Things seem to have turned around, at least from the initial launch day, and hopefully it's smooth sailing from there, but we'll see how it goes. I really do love this game, so thank you for just listening to me ramble about it, and hopefully this time it actually succeeds. I don't need this game to die for a third time. Thanks, of course, as well to this month's patrons: Mads, Dave the Unknown, Griff, Einhart Anderson, Turmeric, Maddie Grady, The Commenting Cat, and Jarl Dunkey. You guys truly do mean the most, and I appreciate you as always. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to this video, and hopefully I'll see you on the, I don't know what they call it, Gigantic, the battlefield? I don't know. Buy the game. It's great. Thank you for watching, and take care.